I honestly don't blame you if you don't believe what I saw. I myself was in denial of this episode to begin with. Not only did it manage to fuck with me, but it's fucked with my daughter's head. If you can't already tell, I'm a proud father of two. I have a wonderful daughter Sarah and a beautiful son Tyler. The time we have obtained this DVD was before my son was born. My daughter was only 2 years old. I wanted to do something special for Sarah for her 3rd birthday. My son was born when Sarah was 4, for anyone who's curious. I know that this is ridiculous, but I bought a pirated Caillou episode collection. If you thought I was a sucker for that, I don't blame you. But I never thought the circumstances would be that severe. We got the DVD in a package that we bought from a pirating website. All that was written on the disc was, "Thank you." Written very, very, very poorly, though. Once we got inside, my daughter put the disc in the living room Xbox and watched it. My daughter was giggling happily and dancing around as Caillou was playing with his toys. It made me feel so relieved that my daughter was satisfied with their birthday present. I was in the kitchen cooking breakfast when I noticed something off. After about 20 minutes, my daughter stopped laughing. I didn't even hear her speak. After I had gotten done making breakfast, I really started to notice. The DVD wasn't even making any sound. It was dead silent. I went back into the living room to find my daughter on the ground crying, and I knew they had put some messed up stuff on there. I turned off the TV and comforted her as best as I could. The reason I didn't host a birthday party is because my daughter was sick with the flu. So eventually, it was time for Sarah to go to bed, and I'm guessing you know exactly what I was planning. As soon as she fell asleep, I pulled up my laptop and began to watch the disc. The menu opened up normally like it did when my daughter saw it. Although, there was only one episode on there, and it was entitled, The Reason. I already knew that they put some effed up crap in there, but I wasn't expecting to see this. The episode started off with Caillou running around with his toys, laughing and giggling. Caillou then proceeded to trip and fall, and then proceeded to fall down a flight of stairs. When Caillou was at the bottom, he looked at his broken leg and his fractured arm. Caillou begins to scream and cry. Oddly, no one says a word. Rosie comes down the stairs and sees Caillou crying and shouts, "Mommy, Caillou hurt, help!" Doris came to Caillou's aid, but Boris just looked at Caillou with a look of disappointment before looking away. Eventually the ambulance came and got Caillou. Strangely, the narrator wasn't narrating it like it did when my daughter watched it. When Caillou finally got to the hospital with a sling in his arm and his cast for his leg, Caillou then asked nervously if his parents were coming to see him. The doctor slowly noted with a hint of sadness and complete sympathy for the poor kid. I mean, Caillou just broke 2 limbs. How could you not feel sympathetic for him? Caillou's parents then show up at Caillou's hospital bed with no hint of sorrow, not even cringing at their son's injuries. His parents literally had the face of, "Look what a big mistake you did. Wow." Caillou then said in a weak voice, "Mommy? Daddy?" Caillou got no response whatsoever, not even a single glance from his parents. Eventually, they finally broke the silence, but not in a pleasant, loving way. Boris started with, "Caillou, we're not sympathetic for you because you truly were the worst mistake in our lives." Doris began, "We were happy until you came along. Ever since then, you've always had to go through constant hell with you. We've always had to take care of you, or else we would have lost all respect from our family members." Doris finally said before leaving, "We never cared about you. All the things we said were lies. We never loved you in any shape or form. You were a sick joke and never should have existed." Eventually, Doris and Boris left without looking back. Caillou eventually went into a coma after what seemed like weeks. Then eventually, as probably expected, Caillou eventually passed away. After the episode ended, I then took the disc and put it back in its case and put it into its sealed envelope and shipped it back. Quick update. My kids are teens now. My son is 16 and my daughter is 18. She just finished her senior year. I'm so proud of her. She's doing fine and surprisingly hasn't suffered any trauma of some sort. And that, my little shadows, was Caillou the Reason. A Caillou creepypasta written by Mr.Monkey 78. Mr. Monkey 78, thank you for the story. This person has also asked me to be extremely brutally honest, so I'm going to be doing such. Now, this story, I did not like it. In fact, I would actually more or less say that this story really didn't exactly sit well with me. Now, let me start off by saying that the grammar was pretty okay with this. However, I did notice that there were a couple of lowercase i's. I don't think I need to explain any further about that. You all know how I feel about lowercase i's. I hate them. They are lazy. I mean, I'm not trying to say that the person was lazy with doing it, but come on. Google Docs can fix this. Any document software can fix that kind of thing. But I'm not going to rant. At least not yet. But this entire thing just kind of went from 1 to 100 in a manner that just wasn't properly built up. You see, that's the main problem with the story. There's a lack of any kind of build-up with the story. There's just, I mean, especially even within the episode. See, the thing is, there has to be a big reason why exactly the things happen the way that they do. Now, of course, I know that that might sound a little hypocritical because I made a story yesterday with almost the same thing to an extent. But then again, though, that story was meant to that episode was not really meant to make a whole lot of sense. It was just there because of the fact that it was there. I mean, I kind of thought, now that I really think about it, that story just really could have used a lot more of an improvement. But with this story, I'm just going to say that in this manner, though, it really did it in a very negative way. I mean, for one, with the episode in question, this entire thing was just completely and utterly, like, what? I mean, for one, Caillou wound up falling down the stairs and his parents not doing anything to help him. There was no true explanation as to why this was the case. But at the same time, though, it's just like, he breaks a leg and he breaks his arm. I mean, that happens. It's possible. But I think what really just hit me right in the face, with how, are you kidding me right now, with the story, was the random and completely unsensical inclusion of Caillou's parents just automatically saying how they never loved him, how they hated him, and I could tell that this person probably gained some inspiration from my story. In fact, I think that this entire thing was actually written about about 7 hours whenever it was, I don't know, but this was something that more or less was made, I'm quite sure, as an inspiration from the story, and I am flattered because of it, if that was the case, but even if that was the case, this story still did not hold up well. The main issue is just, like I said, is build-up. There had to have been a full ounce of build-up for the reasoning behind why the things happened the way that they did. Unless it's specified otherwise that the episode itself was not meant to be that kind of way because of, well, an honest-to-God good reason. And this one, they just sat there and just berated Caillou and treated him like crap and just said that we never loved you, we hate you, we this, we that. That just really made me just go, oh my god, the story just died for me. But I think what's worse about this is the way that it went by, with Caillou suddenly going into a fucking coma. Look, I don't mean to sound rude here, but a coma? Really? Why would you ever, and I repeat, ever include that in a lost episode creepypasta unless that's what the story was based off of? I mean, at least in some of the other stories, Caillou creepypastas, there's a reason for him dying. There's an honest-to-God reasoning why he died. I mean, him just going into a coma because he has a broken arm or a leg, there's no explanation for it. There's none. There's no explanation. There's no, there was complications. There was this. There was that. He wound up getting an infection. There was no explanation. And because of that, I wound up having to read a story about Caillou just breaking his arm and his leg and then going into a coma and then dying at the end. That's a cheap ending. No, in fact, that's like dollar store cheap ending. Actually, I can't even say dollar store cheap ending. It's just a bad ending. It's a bad way of going out with it. You have to have a reason for things happening the way that they are going to. Even if your episode isn't supposed to make sense, there's still supposed to be an honest to God reason why that was the case. I mean, I don't know. And the whole end and everything was like, well, that's it. No. I mean, there needs to be a better explanation for everything that went by. And look, I know I'm being really hard on this person for the story, but I could tell that he at least tried to do something. You know, I can give them credit for the fact that they tried. They definitely did try to do what they possibly could to make the story good, and I do commend them for at least giving it a shot. But even then, though, there still is a lot with the story that really needed to get worked on, that needs to be improved, which leads me to what I would have done to personally make the story better. Have a better backstory with everything. If you're going to sit there and have, like, your first startup, try to avoid any kind of cliches if you possibly can. Or if there is a cliche that you know for a fact is practically unavoidable, make it in such a way that'll make it completely original. So while it will be considered a cliche, it'll be considered something new as well that people will enjoy. Another thing too, do not, and I repeat, do not, under any circumstance, unless that is what the episode was supposed to be about, have Caillou's parents or really anything just kind of go from 1 to 100 like that, without any good explanation for it. I mean, there has to be that. Don't sit there and have it go 1 to 100 just right then and there with their parents sitting there and saying, oh, we hate you and yada yada. No. That doesn't work. That just makes their parents seem like a complete and utter... Actually, it just makes it seem lazy. That's really all it seems to be. Now, Mr. Monkey, I'm going to be honest. If you did take inspiration from this, that's fine. I have no problem with it. But please, I don't even know what to say. But this entire thing was just, I mean, it was more bland than anything. I mean, this wasn't particularly insultingly bad or anything. It was just bad and meh. That's really all I have to say about the story. Obviously, the person tried, and I'm going to give, like I said, credit where credit is due for doing that. But still, though, the episode just didn't seem to have a whole lot of originality to it, and everything just kind of went from one, like I said, again, to 1 to over 100 in just literally a couple of paragraphs. And there was no honest reasoning for it. And I doubt there ever will be a good reasoning for any of it. I mean, I don't know. To the author, please try and revise this story as best as you can. Put it through Google Docs and fix the grammatical mistakes that are in the story, the lowercase i's, because I had to keep myself from fuming because of that. And better yet, try and really expand as best as you possibly can. See, the one thing that would be a really good thing to do is include a story within the Lost episode story itself. That way, there's something that, even if the episode doesn't exactly do too very well, there's still something extremely entertaining as well to kind of help back that story up. I mean, that's something I do. That's a good recommendation, to be honest. But even then, though, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine, too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 3 out of 10. I'm giving it a 3 because of the fact that the person obviously tried to put effort into the story, and they did okay. But the rest of the story was just so bland, flat, and completely and utterly uninteresting that it was very difficult for me to really just want to keep on reading it. I mean, not trying to sound rude, but that's exactly how it is. But of course, the author asked me to critique this thing as hard as I could, so this is exactly what I'm giving. There was obviously an attempt to try and put effort into the story, which is a good thing, but still. But what did you guys... My final rating of the story would have to be... Oh wait, damn it! I already gave the rating. I apologize for that little screw up. What did you guys think about the story? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what would you have personally done to help make the story a lot better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'm the Shadow Reader. Thanks again for watching today's episode, and like always, roll the outro because I'm out. In fear and surprise as your eyes widen,
Your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave. Glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.